Welcome to Roundtail Radio. Through our conversations, we discover the holy and the ordinary, look for moments of grace and peace, and redefine what we're talking about when we talk about faith. Hey, Ed.
How you doing, Leslie?
I'm doing so good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. So we're back for another week, and you have... Ed is in scholar mode, guys. There's books, there's a manila folder, there's
Files.
Post-its, there's an index card.
Yep.
There's a lot happening, and I, for one, am like... I feel like I'm ready at a buffet. Like I'm ready to see what is served. So you're open to the book of Ezekiel.
I'm opening to the book of Ezekiel. Yes.
So I'm assuming we're talking about that person today.
Yes.
Tell me.
You know, I just wanted to say, first of all, I always picture people coming to church like for the first time.
Okay.
And don't like who are the players? What's happening?
Yes.
What is this?
Yes.
And then suddenly someone, who is that person? You find out later that's one of the pastors, stands up and says, I'm going to read from the book of Ezekiel. And you say, what?
Ed Hudua? Yeah.
Yeah. Ezekiel. Where did that come from?
Yes.
It's just so strange, right? There's like, if you're not familiar with any of these stories and texts, it's so completely strange. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I always appreciate the fact that every time I open this book, it's, who's experiencing it for the first time and just doesn't have any idea. And you could be looking at this book for your entire life, I'm sorry, and still not have a very clear idea about much of what's going on.
That's actually what I'm getting from you, is that like there's something about Ezekiel that still feels maybe mysterious or confounding or odd in a way that I wouldn't have necessarily picked up on, because I'm like, it's just odd because I don't.
Yes.
I can all I'm doing right now is hearing Ezekiel Saw the Wheel in my head on a loop.
Yep.
The great spiritual anthem that the choir has done from time to time. So that's all I've got as context.
Yeah, and that might be for a lot of people the only thing.
Yeah.
By the way, Ezekiel often pops up on shows, Netflix or whatever, about UFOs or unidentified aerial phenomenon, because he has this bizarre, I say bizarre, that's kind of a judgment, but it is, even in the biblical literature, it's unusual, this vision of wheels within wheels and something in the air that's happening. So people who want to see evidence of UFOs or UAPs everywhere have used that story as one of their reference points.
So people are interpreting Ezekiel Saw the Wheel way up in the middle of the air, which is the lyric,
yes,
as a UFO reference.
Correct. Yeah. So there's Ezekiel.
Well, alrighty then.
From spirituals to popular culture to science or pseudoscience, he's got all of this. And
man.
Yeah, and then it's when he is the book is very long, and yet usually it's only that particular vision that we hear about, principally because of the song.
Like Jacob and his ladder.
Hey, there you go, right? And then also because there's a very powerful story, which we would be using often in our services around Easter time, because it points towards resurrection.
Okay.
So there's a very powerful passage. It's Ezekiel chapter 37, where he has this amazing vision. And that vision is often what people of faith read before Easter time. People of Christian faith read before Easter time.
So full disclosure, we are recording this before Sunday. The congregation will hear said chapter on Sunday.
Yes.
So future us will know exactly what he's talking about. But current Leslie is not so sure.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because it seems that Ezekiel and his contemporaries actually wrote for people down the road to see what they were saying.
How, in what way is that different?
In many cases, people were writing kind of in the moment, right? They were responding just to that moment for their audience. But for Ezekiel and his contemporaries, it seems like they composed this book. Now, maybe he spoke the words and someone else wrote them down.
Okay.
A scribe or several scribes. That was common in the ancient world. But they were thinking about a generation or two down the road reading these texts.
So this is different than like the letters to the Corinthians, where he's writing to people currently who need help or currently misbehaving, and he's encouraging, suggesting, chastising, all the things, but it's to people who are actively doing stuff, and he's talking specifically to them. This is more kind of understanding that this would be in a book for thousands of years.
It's like this vision in Native American or American Indian philosophy of the seventh generation. You do things in order to make sure that the seventh generation down the road benefits from them. So there's a little, not quite seven generations here, but the idea that we want to make sure that we're providing hope all the way down the line.
Wow.
So you think about people, cross my path on a regular basis who are wondering right now about the future because of either upheaval in the world, climate change, any one of a number of issues.
Right.
And when you're in that mode, you're really thinking about right now. How are we going to navigate this right now? This would be like us saying, well, we're not just going to respond to one another. Let's think about several generations. We're going to write to those generations down the road. That's quite a leap of hope.
It's a leap of hope, but it's also, for me, completely changes how I think about almost everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is a whole mindset shift.
It is. It is. Well, it definitely pulls us out of the present in a way, which is good. I mean, it's good to be rooted where we are, but it just shows this great sense of time.
Yeah.
And I think a sense of trust. And that is part of the reason why this particular section in Ezekiel, the 37th chapter, has been so important over the years. Again, the book is very long, but people usually key on a few things. And that's important because he has this vision that he is taken out to this valley. And it is one of the most eerie passages in the entire Bible, because as he looks out, he sees this, not only a valley, but it's littered with bones.
Wow.
And you can imagine the bones have been whitewashed, by the desert winds and the sand. And God is there basically as a spirit, as this wind. And God then asks him a series of questions. Do you think these bones can live? And so it's a kind of impossible question, that everything is dead and dried out.
Yeah.
And Ezekiel wisely answers, only you know the answer to the question. And so very slowly and weirdly, I get chills thinking about it, these bones start to come back to life.
Okay.
And they add muscle, sinew, body, and then finally breath. And there's this very powerful section where Ezekiel, they have to call upon the four winds. So you get this sense of these winds that are swirling around, which is also the breath of God. And suddenly they're filled again. So now you have this image of something that looked dead as dead could be. And now it's a fully alive, almost nation. So in a way, it's saying that was what Israel looked like when it went into exile. Dead, over, finished. And then in the middle of the exile, because Ezekiel was one of those who were transported in the exile, he then says, no, it's not the end of the story. Apparently, what was also unique about Ezekiel, which I hadn't really known until super recently, like maybe even this morning, is that Ezekiel was writing for the exiles who were sent away from the land of Judah or Israel out to Babylonia.
Okay.
All right, Babylon is the great superpower, and they swallow up Judah and they pull all these people away. But somehow Ezekiel remains connected to the people who weren't sent to exile.
Oh.
So he is writing or communicating at some level both to the people who've been forever distanced from their homeland, as well as the people who got stuck and left behind to fend for themselves. So he's got two audiences he's got to think about, as preachers and also music directors, right? We're always thinking about what's the context, right? What's happening this Sunday? What special day is it in national life? What's happening in the world? All of that. You can just imagine Ezekiel always thinking about these two populations. I'm writing for these people never going back home, probably. These people who never left home, but they're stuck back there without any superstructure, infrastructure to manage their lives. So there they are. And so he's writes this amazing story of this vision designed to say the end is not the end. So you can see why it becomes so powerful when read on the way to Easter.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
So
I'm kind of fixating on this idea of dry bones. They're not just bones, they're dry.
Yes.
It's just such like an evocative way of saying they're dry. Like you picture like almost powder.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Like it creates such an image with so few words.
Shows you where my mind goes. I think of Houdini, the great escape artist,
Okay.
right? Who was always saying, put one more lock around it. Go ahead, put handcuffs, right? And then he would see if he could get out. I get that sense with Ezekiel. Go ahead, they're not, as you say, they're not just bones, they're dry bones.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Put them to the point where they've almost disintegrated, and we're still going to bring them back.
Okay. I was wondering how you were going to get from
There
one
it
to the
is.
other there. But no, but I could definitely see that. I mean, not that even like if they were soggy, would they be any easier to turn into people? You know, but to your point, it's gone to the full possible extreme.
Yes.
That then gets brought completely back. So talk about the extreme of hope is lost. The extreme of it's the end of the road and everybody's gone home.
Yes.
Yeah. Or not home in this case. And that it's as far can go.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool.
It's stunning. It makes me think, Leslie, we have so many shows available to us that take place, can't help saying this, in what are usually called apocalyptic settings.
Yeah.
Right? Just endless number of television shows and movies about looking at life after some global cataclysmic disaster. More and more come out all the time. We can't get enough of them.
I mean, sure. Some people.
I don't know. They may be closer to you than you think, these people who are watching the show.
Oh, I see. Understood. You do you, as you say.
There you go. So the thing I'm thinking about, though, is that what does it mean to write about hope as persuasively as that? Because there's so much creative energy going into the description and exploration of those worlds. And those are fascinating scenarios.
Yeah.
No question.
Yeah.
Or otherwise we wouldn't keep watching them. And I do think part of the draw to watching them is to see, is anything going to come out of that? Are we going to make it? Is somebody going to make it?
Right.
In this story, in a way, it's the same thing. We're going to set it up, make it as bad as it can get. Is there still a power alive in the universe that can make something new out of that?
Right.
And I think that's the connection. That's what we're looking for. So maybe that's our way of retelling the Ezekiel story. I just become a little concerned that in some cases we may think that the so-called apocalypse, the destruction part of it, is almost a foregone conclusion. I think, Ezekiel has already passed through he's passed through an experience like that. And yet he's on the other side of it. He strives to be hopeful. Do we have to wait for that scenario to happen? Is there a way in which we can gather our energies, our democratic resources, our faith resources, so as to prevent that happening in the first place? So it's been argued for a long time by some Christian theologians that the church is always living in exile. So it's always out of sync with the culture.
Oh, that's for sure.
Right? And often the name given to the church that's aware of itself being in exile is resident aliens.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I had not heard that.
Yeah. There's a very strong theological tradition in which churches actually claim that. And I would say the Amish, the Mennonites, the sort of historical peace churches, as they're called, they embrace that.
Yeah.
So much so that they've gone away from the world.
Right.
But to claim that status of being a resident alien, that's really an interesting thing.
That is really interesting.
And then you become aware that you're not meant to be in line with, we're not to be conformed, right?
Yeah.
I think we had a passage fairly recently here where St. Paul says, do not be conformed to the world, but be renewed by be transformed by the renewal of your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And if I might make a little connection with Palm Sunday.
Oh, please do. Oh, please do.
We knew it was going to happen.
Nice job.
Here it is. I think that in a way, what drives Jesus to go into Jerusalem, even though he seems to sense that it'll be the end, is that it's the most dramatic and graphic way of saying, we don't belong to this.
We don't subscribe to this.
Exactly.
I will say, I think the thing that is so different about that Palm Sunday entrance in relation to your comment about being a resident alien, it's not just setting yourself apart, it's setting yourself apart or experiencing that otherness, but then saying, and I see the injustice or I see the problem, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm going towards it.
Right.
And I think that for me feels different than the drawing back, being like, your problem versus it's our problem, and we have this energy and this influence of spirit and justice and love, and we're going to bring it to you in a way that is
beautifully said.
Strong.
Beautifully said. Yeah, we're going to get as close as we can to the nerve center of what opposes our value system, because that's where we can make the contrast so stark and vivid. We can't mistake it at that point.
Like, there's not anything exclusive about Jesus's triumphal entry. It's basically like, come along, everybody. Yes. It's almost got this like, y'all come vibe. I don't think that's ever been called that before. But there's nothing exclusive like, oh, we're over here and we're pointing, but we're special.
Right.
It's more, it feels very inclusive. There's a crowd and there's energy and there's excitement and there's people being like, shh, don't get them angry.
Yes.
But it's still feels invitational in a way I think is exciting.
Well, and to your point, those who are trying to shush the whole thing down because they don't want to rock the boat. We don't want the eye of Pilate, right? The eye of Rome staring us down here, if I might use another reference.
Yeah, great.
From another major book. But so, and so it is very much invitational and wide open, and anybody who wants to be part of that can. Yeah. And then, of course, you push it all the way to the end, and it looks like the empire has destroyed the weak little band.
Right.
They've killed the leader. They've sent the followers into hiding. It looks like it's dead and gone.
Dry bones.
Dry bones. And lo and behold, it's not. And it's a story that just never ceases to inspire and catch us in its magic. So here it is, all leading up. In some ways, when you read that, if this story is read in Christian houses of worship before Easter, which it will be in ours and it will be in others too, it's Easter before Easter.
Yeah, which always Palm Sunday. I feel like people who experience Palm Sunday and then do the jump to Easter is kind of like this weird, like pre-Easter kind of experience. Yeah. And there's a lot that happens in between.
Because the thing you're missing, if it does go directly from Palm Sunday to Easter, is that Good Friday says, no, he was really killed.
Yeah.
And the movement was really dead.
Yeah.
Or at least for a time. And so I think that for us, but that built resilience in the future, because they said, even though that happened, the worst that could have happened, and we're still here.
Yeah.
That's the feeling I think we need to capture now, that we're still here. There's still, a friend of mine likes to say, plenty of juice in the lemon.
I love that.
Right? That there is still an energy it's never been exhausted, never depleted, cannot be.
Even when we feel depleted.
Yeah. And so here's our friend Ezekiel and our friends, who make their way, haphazardly, those beloved disciples, heading into Jerusalem with Jesus, and they go directly into the worst of it. But on the other end of it, they come alive.
So cool.
Yeah.
So cool. Thank you, Ed, for this. Thank you
Thank
guys
you.
all so much for joining us.
Yeah.
Round Hill Radio is brought to you by the friends and members of Round Hill Community Church. For more information, please visit roundhillradio.org.